Alright, sorry y'all that this video is coming out so late, but we're here to dive into the stock ups and stock downs of mandatory minicamp, who are basically the winners and losers, even though I don't really want to say losers, especially since we have to talk about a couple of injuries. I don't want to use the word losers. I want to just keep it stock ups and stock downs from those three practices we had earlier last week, man. And we have a lot to talk about too. Like, it's not gonna just be all peaches and cream and a bunch of positive. We're gonna start with the stock ups, but we have a few stock downs as well. We're gonna dive into all of it and more, but before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for staying tuned and supporting all of the channel stuff. I've been super busy, but I'm trying to get back to a video a day, so stay tuned for that. Even though we don't have nothing going on Commanders wise until late July, StreetScores is not on break like the Commanders are, so stay tuned. Let's go and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so like I said, we're going to start with the stock ups. First of all, Marshon Lattimore's health and resurgence, because of course last year was fairly disappointing, but I think a lot of that was due to his lack of health. I feel like a lot of that also had to do with him not being very comfortable with the scheme just yet. I mean, he didn't have chemistry and communication with the guys around him. That's huge, man. I mean, we used to talk about that like a couple of years ago, where it's like we had talent in the secondary, but it didn't matter because they didn't have any chemistry. That's why we had so many blown coverages and things like that. And Lattimore was like the odd man out. Everybody else had been practicing and playing with around each other, all the way back since the offseason. He came in towards like in July. And even then, when he came in, he was hurt for so long, he couldn't even practice really until like December or something like that. And so he kind of just had to catch on quick, and it just, the season outpaced him. And the injuries didn't help at all. And again, I feel like even more so than just the scheme, I feel like the injuries are what really held him back last year. I think a lot of people have given up on the idea that maybe he could still be an elite NFL talent at this point in his career, like play at a Pro Bowl level. I have not. I think he still has Pro Bowl talent within him. He just, man, that hamstring injury and issue last year was really lingering, man. It was very nagging. It was a very nagging injury where it seemed like he would always get back healthy and he would look fairly good, and then it would just act right back up. I mean, remember, he played like a game or two and then had to miss another game. And then he came back like later on and things like that. So it was something that never truly went all the way away. Now this time around, it looks like it's all the way gone. I mean, you're seeing the clips of him battling against Trey Amos, and you're looking like, which one's Lattimore? You got to remember that he switched back to his college number at Ohio State, number 2, and that's not him in 23 running around looking that smooth. That's number 2. And either way, both of them look very smooth, very quick, very fast. And he even said it himself in interviews after, I think it was our second mandatory minicamp practice on June 11th. He spoke to the media and talked about how, like, last year, I was forcing it. I just wanted to kind of validate the fact that they traded for me. I wanted to do them a favor after they spent all of that draft capital on me to show them you made the right choice type of thing. We're in the playoffs. I don't want to hold this team back, so I'm going to still give it my all. I don't want y'all to feel like y'all wasted those draft picks, all of that type of stuff. And so he was basically trying to push through and act like he wasn't hurt when he still was. Even after missing games and then finally playing, he was still never anywhere near 100% last year. Now it looks like he finally is, and man, you can see it from his movement skills right there. I mean, will he ever be the prime version of himself again? I'm not exactly sure, but if we can even just get 90-something% of Marshon Lattimore, which we never even got close to last year, I think he's going to be huge, man. I mean, he's going to make those draft picks we gave up for him well worth it. Going to make it look like chump change and pennies. So I'm really excited about what I've seen so far from Marshon Lattimore. Now, granted, I want to put everything into context. And I'm probably going to say this a few more times throughout this video. This is mandatory minicamp. These are just 3 days of practice. No contact. Not really diving into like scheme and things like that a lot. We're not specifically looking to create mismatches and things like that, which other teams will do once we actually get to the regular season and of course the postseason as well. So everything's really vanilla, everything's really surface level, general plain, whatever you want to call it. But from what I've seen so far, I've never saw Marshon Lattimore move like that at any point last year. You know, those battles he had with A.J. Brown last year, it's going to be a different story this upcoming season as long as he can stay healthy. And I mean, he just looks really good. Remember, it's not like he got to the Commanders and suffered those injuries. He had those injuries before we even traded for him. So I don't even think he's necessarily like this injury-prone guy that we got to worry about. Like as soon as we traded for him, all of a sudden he said, no, it didn't even go like that. He was already hurt. We already knew that trading for him. That's probably why we got him for the price that we did. And now we're going to be able to reap the benefits of paying a lower price to get him. And now he's going to end up going back to potentially being his Pro Bowl self. That's going to be huge. We're going to bring up secondary again in this video. And it's going to be huge, the fact that our secondary is going to be way better this year than it was last year. You're going to, not only did you draft Trey Amos in the second round, who was clearly a first round talent, you're also getting a better, way healthier version of Marshon Lattimore. So it's almost as if you just added him this offseason as well, because he was a shell of himself last year. Now moving on to the next stock up, the offensive line. Just period. There's nothing to even really specifically say about it. I'm just really excited about this offensive line moving forward into this season. Now it's hard to evaluate the offensive line versus the air, especially with no real contact. I mean, out of all positions in football, out of any position group, offensive line, defensive line, that trenches, at this point in the offseason where there's no contact, they're probably the toughest to evaluate. Running back is probably maybe like a close third, but offensive line is really hard to know, okay, this guy's good, this guy's not good, and things like that. But at the same time, this offensive line has real potential. And like I've been saying since we drafted Josh Connolly, this offensive line has the potential to be top 5 in the NFL this season. And that stock only increased after mandatory minicamp practices. And it's not just the starters, but that does have a lot to do with it, just not all of it. I mean, Laramie Tunsil is a top 5 left tackle in the NFL. Certified, perennial Pro Bowler every year that he was with the Houston Texans, even after a year where he led the NFL in penalties. I feel like that was more so because of the environment and the situation around him, especially the offensive linemen around him. I don't think we're going to have that problem here, and I think he's going to return back to his former elite self. Honestly, I think he may ultimately have some of the best seasons he's ever had in his career with us, because again, the situations around him, he's going to play with the most mobile quarterback he's ever blocked for in his life in Jaden Daniels. That's going to make him way better, not only just production wise, but even like stats. You're going to look at like pressures and sacks allowed and things like that. He may end up going out there and immediately having the best season of his career. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, mind you, perennial Pro Bowler, top 5 tackle in the NFL. And then I've already told y'all several times, moving from left to right, Brandon Coleman is going to be a great guard, like Pro Bowl level in my opinion, like a Brandon Sheriff level type of guy. I firmly believe that. That guy did he did a great job against the NFL sack leader in Trey Hendrickson last year while he was at left tackle, the 3rd game of his NFL career. And then now he's about to go to a position that's better suited for his build and traits. Then Tyler Biadasz is a top 5 center in the NFL. We know that. And if you didn't know that, you just saw how huge of a difference our entire, not even just the offensive line, our entire offense was those 2 games that he had to miss and Michael Dieter had to start in his place, man. Jaden Daniels was under duress. We couldn't run the ball as well. You can tell when Tyler Biadasz is not on the field. So hopefully he's able to play every game this regular season and postseason. Then Samuel Cosmi, without, enough said, Pro Bowler when he's healthy. We got to wait for him to get healthy, but when he's healthy, Pro Bowler. I've already given you 3 Pro Bowlers out of the 4 offensive linemen we talked about, and that's not even including Brandon Coleman. You have Laramie Tunsil, Tyler Biadasz, and Samuel Cosmi, all Pro Bowlers, point blank, period. And then you have Josh Connolly, your right tackle, who already bullied and erased Abdul Carter when they played late in the 2024 season this past year. And he's already on top of what he did in college, getting huge compliments from Tunsil, saying several times in the interview after the 3rd final mandatory minicamp practice, I believe it was after the 3rd practice or 2nd one, he kept saying over and over again, he's a dog, talking about Josh Connolly. And I highly doubt Laramie Tunsil is saying that just to say it, or saying it to make fans excited and to get us all hyped up about our 1st round draft pick. I highly doubt he has any agenda to stir that up. If he's saying that, he truly means it. He said it like several times, and I think somebody even asked him to expound upon it. He was just like, man, he's just a dog. I can already tell he's going to be a great player. So this starting and healthy offensive line has the potential to be the best in the NFL. I think it easily has top 5 potential. But then on top of that, going back to what I briefly mentioned earlier, we have at least 4 guys as backups that could, and maybe even some of them should, be starting on other offensive lines in the NFL. So it's not just the starters, it's the depth as well. Nate Herbig was supposed to be the Steelers' starting center just last year, but he suffered a season-ending injury very early on in the season, and then now he's here as like a super duper backup. Trent Scott replaced Samuel Cosmi versus the Lions after Cosmi tore his ACL, which he's still recovering from right now. And he replaced them so well that many of us forgot that Samuel Cosmi wasn't even out there while we were blowing out the Lions. Remember, like, I think our first touchdown of the game is when Samuel Cosmi got hurt. The rest of those points we scored, Trent Scott at right guard, and you never worried about, oh man, we got Trent. When Trent Scott first went out there, it was a worry, but as the game went on and we were putting up points, it was almost like we didn't miss a step. And then both Nick Allegretti and Andrew Wiley were starters for the Commanders' offensive line just last season. So those are 4 guys right there that could, and arguably some of them should, be starting on other offensive lines in the NFL. And having elite depth, especially at a position like offensive line with all of that constant contact, is almost as important as having great starters. You're only as good as your depth is in general. That's just a general rule of thumb in the NFL, but especially on that offensive line, man. You cannot depend on all 5 guys to give you all 17 plus games, because again, we're going to the postseason. We're going to the Super Bowl this year. And then Dan Quinn is even really excited about this offensive line. When asked about Samuel Cosmi's health, he gave like a really positive update, but he kind of was general, like, man, I mean, I don't know much about it, but so far it looks like he's hitting all of the markers and maybe is even like ahead of schedule. But then he said, quote, "What I do know is that I love the competition that we have on the offensive line right now at guards and centers, and who's playing that right tackle, and how are we working through the guys." So it'll take some time to work as we're going through into training camp. But though, these are the type of challenges you want as a coach. It's not who is going to play over there. It's more like this is going to be an absolute battle to see where it goes. So that's most of the times been my experience, where the competition of one another really pushes us forward and the whole group gets better, unquote. And mind you, statistically, we were technically like a top 15 offensive line, top 12 offensive line last year. And this offensive line is way better this year than it was last year. That's why I feel like we can get into the top 5 offensive lines conversation this year. I'm telling you right now. Now moving on to another stock up. That Jaden Daniels connection to Deebo Samuel, man, hey, it's growing. I mean, with Terry McLaurin holding out for his new contract, which I'm very, very confident that it will get done, maybe even before training camp even starts, Deebo has taken advantage of that extra time, that ample time and reps and targets to gain more chemistry with Jaden Daniels at an expedited rate. And I'm not going to sit here and act like it's done or perfect or anything like that, but the chemistry between Deebo Samuel and Jaden Daniels is definitely taking a step forward from the day that Deebo Samuel got traded to the Commanders like a few months ago. I mean, we were seeing throws in this mandatory minicamp that required timing and knowing your receivers, like where they'll be and when they'll be there. And on top of that, I was seeing some more receiver nuance from Deebo than I'm used to seeing from watching his tape with the 49ers. You know how elite basketball players go from relying on their elite athleticism, some of them, not all of them, go from relying on their elite athleticism to developing like a jump shot or even a three-pointer as they, start to lose some of the athleticism with age. Well, Deebo Samuel's pretty much the NFL equivalent of that. I mean, I saw him reaching out for passes that were out of his reach for most receivers, and then even tapping both of his feet barely in bounds to make the catches. Like, I don't remember him doing with the 49ers. I mean, with the 49ers, he was more like a running back playing wide receiver that couldn't be tackled. But now I'm starting to see some attention to detail type of stuff that I don't remember seeing him doing with the 49ers. But then on top of all of that, I don't believe he's lost as much athleticism that people believe. I really don't believe he's lost much at all. I mean, a few days ago, I just gave y'all a stat about how he had run like the second highest miles per hour in a given play in his NFL career just last season. Like, he was one of the fastest moments in his NFL career just happened for him in 2024. So I don't think he's really lost a step. And at a certain point that he did it, I think it was like October, he was like one of only 3 receivers in the entire NFL that reached at least 20 plus miles per hour like a certain amount of times, like 3 or something like that. And then also, for those people out there that believe he's fallen off of a cliff, I just gave you this stat a couple of days ago. Every wide receiver in the entire NFL in 2024 with at least 40 plus receptions last season to average 8 plus yards after catch per reception? Deebo Samuel, end of list. So when people act like he's just lost a step, he's not the same guy he was still the best receiver in the entire NFL last year in yards after the catch. And remember, that guy dealt with pneumonia for like a month and a half, 2 months, and that completely derailed his season. And he was off to a pretty good start. And then he caught the pneumonia like very early, by like week 4 or 5 or something like that. And then it didn't seem like he fully recovered from it until like November, December or something like that. So please put respect on Deebo Samuel's name. I'm telling you right now. Now moving on to the next stock up. And I'm not gonna lie, probably a little biased here, but this is probably the stock up I'm personally the most excited about, and I think this can have the largest impact on our success this season compared to what we did last year. Like the offensive line, like I said, even though I think it's going to be in the top 5 out of offensive lines in the NFL this season, and maybe even in the conversation for the best offensive line, at worst we were like the 12th best offensive line last year, arguably even better than that. So that's still a pretty big jump. But running back, I mean, we had one of these soggiest running back groups last year just because everybody was banged up, old, and everything like that. We just didn't have a lot of explosion. Jaden Daniels had to lead our team in rushing as not only a quarterback, but a rushing quarterback that prefers to be a pocket passer. He happens to be an elite mobile quarterback, but he prefers to literally be Tom Brady. He plays like Tom Brady in a lot of different ways. I'm not comparing him to the greatest, most accomplished quarterback of all time and things like that, but you know, the way he wants to play, his playing style is Tom Brady that just so happens to leave the pocket and throw on the run occasionally, or even take it himself. That's not his go-to move though. He prefers to stay in the pocket, and that guy, as a rookie, led our team in rushing. And you know how bad our run game was last year? And I mean, you can blame the offensive line for some of it, but you got to blame the running backs for a lot of it. And I feel like the main thing was a lack of explosion, speed, and just overall threat to a defense to even have to worry about it. But you know it's bad when the one game that Marcus Mariota had to start for us, well, really early on, because he came into the second half of the Cowboys game. He came in halfway after Jaden Daniels left that game just to kind of bubble wrap him before we went into the playoffs. But that man had to lead our team in rushing in that game as well. Led our team in rushing in that game. Like, that's insane. Jaden Daniels leads our team in rushing all season. The very few times Marcus Mariota ever had to touch the field for us because Jaden Daniels was sitting out, Marcus Mariota would come in and lead our team in rushing. So it's not like a Jaden Daniels thing. It's more so not because our quarterbacks are so mobile. It's more so because our running backs just weren't very good, or at the very least weren't very explosive. Some runs, some running backs, our running backs would probably get like 5 yards the way it was blocked. Other running backs, the elite explosive ones, will probably turn it into like a 30-plus yard gain. We just don't have guys that can scoot like that. And so, take him to the point that Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, the 7th round pick, who I believe would end up being the biggest steal of the entire draft, not even just out of all of our draft picks, out of every draft pick that every 32 NFL team made, I think Ja'Cory's going to end up being the biggest steal of the draft, man. And the fact that he's already showing early signs, I thought he would, but he even surprised me a little bit with like a 60-yard touchdown run at a certain point in practice. But don't even pay attention to the fact that he had a 60-yard touchdown run. Pay attention to the fact that it was on an outside zone. Cliff Kingsbury pretty much had to take any outside zone play from his playbook, rip it out of his playbook, and burn it last year because we didn't have any running back with enough juice, speed, explosiveness, acceleration to even attempt to run outside zones last year. At the very least, very sparingly, very seldom did we even attempt outside zone runs, let alone succeed with them to the point that we have a 60-yard touchdown run from it. Like, this is just a different level of explosion and speed. Even when you see those guys going through the same exact drills, his look different. And I've already I did a whole 30-minute breakdown on this guy after we drafted him. And I already talked about him before we drafted him because he was one of the main guys I wanted to leave the draft with. But Go check out that breakdown if you haven't yet, because I already broke down so many different advanced stats as to how, like, since 2018, he's arguably the most explosive and agile running back to come out of the draft. Since 2018, for the past 7 years, he's the most explosive, quickest, best change of direction running backs out of all of them. This come out, that's including Aston Genty, Amari Hampton, Travion Henderson in this draft class. We're going all the way back to 2018. We're talking about all of these elite running backs that are here now, Bijan Robinson and the kid from Detroit, better than them at those different traits and advanced stats and metrics and things like that. This guy's potential in ceiling is insane, and you're already starting to see glimpses of it. You're already starting to see the flashes. Once he can put it all together to be a consistent running back, if he can prove he can pass protect, if he can prove that he could be a receiving option, he's going to play early and often. So really, my stock up specifically is Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's chances of playing early and often. Not even just him as a football player, but his chances of being involved very early, because Cliff Kingsbury has to see some of these plays that are going down in practice and realize, I mean, if we see it, I know he sees it like, man, that's not a 60-yard touchdown on the outside zone with Brian Robinson, even if it's blocked the exact same way. It's not that with Austin Eckler. It's not that with Chris Rodriguez. It's not that with Michael Wiley or Jeremy McNichols. Only Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt out of this whole running back room has that type of juice. And we need to take advantage of that, because I've been screaming. That's why I was screaming for running back, maybe even consider it with the 29th overall pick or at the latest second round pick. But thank goodness we got Ja'Cory in the 7th. That's insane value. Because, man, like, I mean, basically, to go back to the point earlier, not even just the fact that Jaden Daniels led the team in rushing, which is never let that happen ever again, ever in Jaden Daniels' career. But even beyond that, he needs help, because if there's a true home run hitting threat, an explosive guy that can turn a 5-yard run into a 30-plus yard run like some of these elite running backs around the NFL, like Saquon and those guys, then that's going to make things easier for Jaden. Because you could tell at a certain point last season, teams tried, I mean, Jaden was still finding success, but they were to a point where, like, you're just going to have to run the ball on us. We're just not going to let Jaden do him. We're going to watch him so he can't run out of the pocket and make things shake with his legs. And we're also going to focus and prioritize stopping his receivers and making sure he can't complete passes. But when in doubt, we'll give you the run game. Well, they're going to stop doing that once we have a guy that turns 5-yarders into 30-plus yarders, home run hits and touchdowns and things like that. Now defense will have to add more players to the box, and that is the end of it. That is your own funeral secondary if you don't have as many guys out there covering against Jaden Daniels as possible, especially with this improved receiving core. And then also, to my next stock up, the sophomores hooping and developing. Man, they were making all kinds of plays throughout mandatory minicamp. Luke McCaffrey, I believe, had a touchdown every day of mandatory minicamp. He had multiple. I know he had at least 3, and it may have been literally like 1 a day. And once you start to string together elite practices like that, it really means something. This is, I don't think it's a fluke, because Joe Wood Jr., just to kind of like compare it to something, Joe Wood Jr. just a couple of weeks ago pointed out the fact that when they first got here, Quan Martin last year, we're talking about last year, Quan Martin, they pretty much benched him. They moved him down the depth chart because they didn't like what they saw. And then he decided to, okay, bet. That's what y'all want to do? I'm going to put together a consecutive string of great practices. And then they had no choice but to be like, all right, this guy is something. This guy's going to be not only the starting safety for our team, but one of the best safeties in the NFL. Stringing together consecutive great practices is very key for not only the coaches to notice you, but to really build momentum and to get the coaches to prioritize, okay, maybe there's something here. Let's start to give him even more and more opportunities, because every time we give him one, he takes advantage of it. Let's give him more to see how much he can handle on this plate. And if you just keep handling it, hey, man, you're going to end up with a far larger role on this team. Luke McCaffrey on his way to that. I'm not declaring that he will be, but yeah, it's looking great. If you're a Luke McCaffrey fan, he literally couldn't have done any better in mandatory minicamp to improve his own personal stock. And then also Dan Quinn personally, in a press conference after one of the practice, pointed out the fact that Jordan McGee and Ben Sinnott as second-year players are really taking a big step forward and already look way better than they did at any point last year. And I mean, do we even have to talk about Jaden Daniels and Mike Sarver still? And then I already told y'all why Brandon Coleman is about to become a household name. And then really, we just got to see if Javonte Jean-Baptiste and Dominique Hampton can develop and contribute anything at all. And I truly believe Johnny Newton, will take a step forward once he's just had finally his first fully healthy offseason full of practices, especially training camp wise, which he didn't get at all last year before his rookie season. So I think he's naturally just going to take a leap forward there. But the most important part is that you're seeing leaps from your second year players. That is huge, man. And this is why you should never judge a draft class until at least 3 years down the road or more, because free agency matters, yeah, trades matter, and drafting matters as well. But player development is probably even more important than anything else I just listed before it. And it makes me super excited to hear that this coaching staff not only drafted a bunch of guys with A's and A pluses in their potential category, like if you play sports games, but then also this coaching staff knows how to get it out of them as well. And that is really hard to find in the NFL. I believe more teams have good quarterbacks than quality coaching staffs that can do that on a consistent basis, and we have one of them. So this allows you to even take risks, to even go beyond, like take risk on very talented, high ceiling, elite athlete types of guys in day 2 and day 3s of drafts. And then even if they don't ball out year 1, they may be a little raw coming out. They may turn around and end up becoming better players and outperforming first rounders from their same draft class in a couple of years down the road. And that's how you build elite rosters and compete for Super Bowls every year consistently. You can't buy an elite roster over and over again. It's unsustainable. But development for sure is sustainable. And of course, we're talking about June. Granted, you know, we're just starting to get into the offseason. But if Dan Quinn feels that strongly about those guys to even point them out, specifically those two, then who are we to doubt it? After really none of us thought this team could go to an NFC championship last year. Dan Quinn believed we could. So if he says something, then what he says goes. If Jordan McGee and Ben Sinnott, he's saying, are really taking a big leap forward, then I believe him. And that's going to be huge because Jordan McGee has the potential to be our best coverage linebacker easily. I love Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu. They're way better at diagnosing what the offense is doing, audibling, making changes, run stopping, all of that type of stuff. And even getting after the quarterback. Jordan McGee is going to be our true chess piece in the defense. I mean, Joey Jr. even admitted it. He said once Jordan McGee kept getting hurt last year, I mean, we were scrambling because we designed a lot of our defense and our defensive formations and plays around Jordan McGee being healthy. Because with Jordan McGee healthy, you know, you're able to still stop the run, but you can also cover as well, because a lot of the times last year, we just decided, forget having a third linebacker on the field. Remember when we went against the Saints and Alvin Kamara was killed? I think it was a Mikael Walker or something like that. We were questioning why Mikael Walker was on the field, because he was in the role that Jordan McGee was supposed to be in, and Jordan McGee wouldn't allow that. He was the most athletic linebacker in his draft class last year. Like, elite athlete, super high ceiling, but also came in with the floor, great instincts and things like that. I'm surprised he even made it to like the 5th round when we got him. It's insane. But my point is that, you know, last year, because we didn't really have a linebacker we could trust outside of Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu to worry about covering guys, we just threw another DB on the field. That's why we played with 3 corners, 3 safeties so often. But now we can go back to 3 linebackers on the field because Jordan McGee can cover as well. But the advantage of having 3 linebackers rather than just 2 is that you can stop the run as well. Jordan McGee is going to be a guy that can both cover and stop the run. We didn't have that last year. Either you had to focus on stopping the pass or stopping the run. Now with Jordan McGee on the field, you can do both at the same time. And then Ben Sinnott, I mean, if he could take over, you know, for Zach Ertz as our true diddly pass catching receiving threat for Jaden Daniels. Remember, Zach, we talk about Terry, we talk about getting Deebo Samuel. It was reports from several sources that went to the practices that Zach Ertz is still Jaden Daniels' favorite target to this day. Even with all of the chemistry he's gaining with Deebo Samuel, we even saw it last year with a lot of the times that Zach Ertz had some games where he got even more targets than Terry McLaurin quite often. Zach Ertz is Jaden Daniels' favorite safety blanket. If Ben Sinnott can step up in that role as Zach Ertz is only getting older, that's going to be huge for us as well. Now moving on to the stock down part of this video. Naturally, after sustaining what sounds like a really bad injury, I'm going to have to include Noah Brown in there. And I really hate to do it because we have received no confirmation that the injury is serious. But if it is, man, that really sucks, man. I mean, because he just can't stay healthy. Every year is something with the Cowboys, with the Texans, and even since he's come over here, it's always something. It seems like he has bad luck because it's usually not even the same injuries. Like the end of last year, he ended up with like a lacerated kidney or something like that, like a car accident type of injury. Like that was crazy. Like he has like, it's hard to consider him injury prone because, that sounds like, okay, it's a bunch of soft tissue stuff and it seems to be the same nagging thing over and over again. Every time he fixes one thing, it's something else. You know what I'm saying? So I really, really feel sorry for him. And losing Noah Brown is more so a stock down for us than for him, because he's going to be a very important part of this offense. I mean, some people still feel like Deebo Samuel is not a true pure receiver as far as route running, nuance, technique, and things like that. Noah Brown was a very quality wide receiver too for us last year. Now, granted, I love the addition of Jalen Lane. I love trading for Deebo Samuel. The ascension and development of Luke McCaffrey is going to help a lot as well, and we'll see what anybody else in this receiver room can contribute. We already know what Terry's going to do, but Noah Brown is like that steady, always dependable, within 30 yards of the line of scrimmage, gonna be able to get open and catch a pass if you need him to. Like anytime it's like 3rd and 5, Noah Brown's one of the more dependable guys to get the ball to, and that's not good to lose a guy like that. Plus, he's also the only guy with some height on this team, man, in this receiving core, man. He's like he's 6'2". Everybody else is like 6 foot or lower. I think Luke McCaffrey's relatively tall, but again, even as excited as I am about him, I'm not going to depend on Luke McCaffrey to be a very dependable receiver for this upcoming season. I hope he is, but based off of what I saw last year, I'm not just going to assume it, if you see what I'm saying. Noah Brown, I've seen it. We saw it a lot through last year. He had a couple of games where he was dropping passes, even that Chicago Bears game. Before the Hail Mary, he was having somewhat of like a, Noah Brown, get it together type of game. And then he finished it off with the Hail Mary. That was huge. I mean, but just think about it. Not having Noah Brown, we don't have that Hail Mary against the Chicago Bears and completely spiraled their season out of control. Remember, they were winning. Then we did that to them, and they went on a losing streak so long that they didn't win another game until the very last game of the season. Like, they spiraled out of control after that, and Noah Brown is a huge thanks for that. So not having Noah Brown, again, is more of a stock down to us as a team and the receiver core than it is to Noah Brown himself. But I really, really hope everything's okay. Dan Quinn completely avoided giving us any information. He wouldn't even tell us exactly what body part it was. We're just kind of guessing that it's somewhere in the legs, but we really don't know. Of course, it's never a good sign when a player, after they get hurt and then make their way to somewhere where they can sit, then they slam their helmet. That's never good. That sounds like, players know. You know what I'm saying? You know your body, especially when you're an NFL player and you've been hurt before. So I don't know. That seems like he knows something, but Dan Quinn didn't give us anything. I'm just gonna really hope that everything's okay. But as of right now, from what I'm seeing, doesn't sound too good for Noah Brown. Then another stock down, the entire wide receiver room. I mean, not only just health, because Michael Gallup and Jalen Lane have been hurt as well. Michael Gallup has been hurt since OTAs, I've heard. And then Jalen Brown at some point got banged up to the point that I don't think he participated in day 3 of mandatory minicamp. And I'm not entirely sure how much he participated in days 1 and 2. Whatever injury had him sidelined for that last practice. Now, of course, maybe it's super precautionary, nothing very serious. There's a reason probably reporters haven't even asked Dan Quinn about it in his press conferences when he was available. All we got were like Noah Brown questions and things like that. You never really heard about a lot of the other injuries going on, but you had a few. And then also, even outside of the injuries, Terry not being there, you know what I'm saying? Now, granted, I think Chris Moore is somebody to watch for if Noah Brown is actually for real hurt. Again, I really wish and hope that he's not, but Chris Moore took a lot of advantage of, like, the receiving core, guys being hurt. Gallup, Brown, Jalen Lane, he stepped up and hey, he made some plays. I mean, this is like a 9-10-year veteran though, so I'm not surprised. But hey, watch out for Chris Moore. That's a name to keep in mind as far as making this Final 53-man roster as a dark horse that may make this team over some of the guys that y'all really want and think will make the roster, like a Michael Gallup or a KJ Osborne or even Ja'Cory Brooks, the undrafted free agent out of Louisville. Hey, Chris Moore, I'm just going to go ahead and give you the heads up now. Don't be surprised if he ends up being the one to get that final spot, but we'll see. I think he's more than likely a practice squad player because I think he's the perfect receiver to practice against since he's so veteran, he's so nuanced, he's been in the league for so long. I feel like that's like the best type of receiver for a guy like Trey Amos to practice against all of the time, because that's more so what he's going to see in NFL games versus seeing really talented, still relatively raw guys like Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane. Yeah, they may be quicker, faster than Chris Moore, Moore, but Chris Moore is way more nuanced. He's way more technically refined. So I prefer Trey Amos to practice against that. So Chris Moore at the very least is going to make this practice squad to at the very least make Trey Amos better and make all of our corners better. But don't be surprised if, he made plays throughout this mandatory minicamp, had several touchdowns, several big catches. Some people even felt like, I think it was day 2, they felt like he had the best catch of the entire day. So watch out for him. But again, wide receiver room, just a little worried. I don't think it's time to hit the panic button or anything like that. I don't think it's time to trade for a big star or anything like that. And again, I'm confident that they will find a way to pay Terry McLaurin. I think they'll even get it done before training camp, but we'll see. I don't have any insider information on that. That's just my guess / hope in a way. Y'all know I'm Mr. Glass half full. But yeah, the wide receiver room, a little concerning. Nothing crazy, but a little concerning. And then the last stock down, I would say game-wrecking pass rusher. We don't just have this one guy. It's fourth quarter, 1 minute and 30 seconds left, 3rd and 8. We need a sack. We need a strip sack. We need a force, whatever. We need you to get to that quarterback and win us this game. We don't have a single guy like that on this roster right now. But at the same time, to kind of flip it from a stock down to don't hit the panic button just yet, I don't believe we necessarily need a guy like that. You would love to have a guy like that. But Logan Paulson, with his podcast that he had with Craig Hoffman, I feel like he did a great job explaining, just like with offensive line, it's better to have 5 or 4, whatever the entire defensive line or offensive line, to be just filled with a bunch of good to great guys rather than just having one elite guy and then a bunch of average or below average guys making up the rest of it. You prefer everybody to be solid than for one guy to be elite and then everybody else just alright. You know what I'm saying? It's just that's just the way, with the discipline and the rush lanes and things like that, all of that matters, man. And so I also want people to not forget that we ranked 12th in sacks last year. A lot of people forget that. And this team didn't have a dominant game-wrecking pass rusher last year, and yet we were 12th in the NFL. Remember how when we went against the Cleveland Browns, back to my earlier point, that granted, they had Zadarius Smith too, but we did a great job of focusing everything on stopping Myles Garrett and then daring the rest of the Cleveland Browns defense to do something about it, and then they couldn't. So it's better to have a bunch of really good guys, and I think we've achieved that with the way that we put this defensive line together this offseason. Even though we didn't get like Donovan Ezra-Rockwell and Mike Green in the draft or trade for Trey Hendrickson or anything like that, I think we'll be just fine because we got after the quarterback by committee. And a great scheme last year. Dante Fowler had 10.5 sacks for us last year, and some people are panicking because he left to go back to the Cowboys. But with the same Cowboys, the year before last, before he had 10.5 sacks for us in 2024, and 2023 with the Cowboys, he only had 4 sacks. So I feel like it's safe to assume that Dante Fowler's success last year and sudden surge in sack production was more of a result of great defensive scheme and coaching and putting them in great situations than just him having the best year of his career out of nowhere because he's just suddenly become elite at 30 years old. Like, I highly doubt it. And mind you, we signed Jacob Martin this offseason, who is literally Dante Fowler, but more athletic and 1 year younger. Literally. So, at the very least, we have your Dante Fowler replacement here. So, at the very least, just from that alone, just take away all outside factors that I'm going to dive into soon. We were 12th last year, and we just replaced the guy that led our team in sacks with another guy that's pretty much the exact same guy. I think the floor is at least 12th in sacks. Plus, also on top of that, we brought in Dietrich Wise from the Patriots, a really good edge rusher, not like a game-changer one, but better than what we got out of guys like Cleveland Farrell and stuff like that last year. And Javon Kinlaw is going to be huge for us as well because he's going to play some edge. And I already showed y'all on my breakdown last week. I finally did the Javon Kinlaw video, and I showed y'all literal all 22 tape and clips of him playing edge for the Jets last year at some points and dominating, getting to the quarterback so quickly, faster than anybody we had last year. So you never know, Javon Kinlaw may break out as our dominant pass rusher that we need to make a play and stuff like that. Plus, on top of that, the pass rush will be even better than it was last year because, one, the run stopping will be way better. We'll be in way more 3rd and longs than 3rd and shorts. And when we're in 3rd and longs, because our run stopping is, but like I already told y'all, our run stopping was dead last year, 32nd. I think we're going to be top 10 this year with the moves we've made in the offseason, especially on the defensive line and things like that. So now, instead of it being 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1 so often, if it's 3rd and 8 or longer, 3rd and 13, you know how much easier it is for our edge rushers to just pin their ears back and only worry about getting to the quarterback rather than having to worry about, okay, stop the run on the way to the quarterback. No, just go after the quarterback. That's it. You know definitively, without a doubt, they are going to pass the ball on this play. Far more likely, like 90-something% chance to throwing the ball. They're far more likely to get after the quarterback and successfully get there in those situations than if it's 3rd and 1 and they got to worry about stopping the run first. Oh, wait, they're throwing the ball. Now I got to, 3 seconds into the play, 2-3 seconds into the play. Now I'm going to finally start to try to get after the quarterback. Then also, too, with a way better secondary from last year, I mean, we were out here giving Benjamin St-Juste, Emmanuel Forbes, and Michael Davis playing time. But we not only will have, more coverage sacks from the defensive line. Secondary is so good that there will be nowhere for the quarterback to throw the ball. So now the defensive line is going to get more sacks just because the quarterback holds on to the ball a little bit longer. But even outside of that, we'll be able to get back to some of the exotic blitzes that Joe Witt Jr. was showing us in the preseason last year. But he had to abandon it because our coverage was that bad. Just like how Cliff Kingsbury had to literally rip out all of his outside zone runs because we didn't have a running back explosive enough. Our coverage was so bad last year. Our secondary was so bad, especially in that cornerback room outside of Mike Sanford still. And even after we traded for Marshon Lattimore, he was a shell of himself, to the point that Joe Witt Jr., literally all of them exotic blitzes, we were seeing like Mike Sanverstill and Quan Martin blitzing in the preseason. You never really saw that in the regular season and postseason because we couldn't afford to. We needed as many guys back in coverage as possible every play, because if not, we were going to get toasted. So maybe we'll probably get back to I think we'll more than likely get back to stuff like that. You saw Joe Witt Jr. had it in him and he wanted to do it, and then he realized, man, this secondary is horrible. We cannot do this stuff that I really want to do. And then also 3, there's just no way we think that with the development conversation we already had earlier, and with this coaching staff, that at the very least a person or 2 or maybe even more will just get better rushing the quarterback from last year just because they got better and developed. And that's one of the main advantages of not only having one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL, but also a coaching staff that returned most of the same people from last year, because we have serious chemistry and continuity going into year 2. And instead of having to dedicate time learning each other, the coaches learning the players learning the coaches and how they like to teach and things like that, the way they do things like we had to do this time last year. This offseason, we're just hitting the ground running. They already know the program. We're just building off of what we already did last year. So I think our defensive line is just naturally going to be better going into year 2 of a system. It's just like how you expect quarterbacks to be better going into year 2 of a system. Offensive players, skilled wide receivers, running backs, and things like that. Same thing with the defensive line. So I'm really excited. I know we don't have a game-changing, game-wrecking edge rusher, but my point is we don't necessarily need one. But of course, it's still a stock down. We don't have one of those guys, and we all want one. Everybody wants one. But I don't think we necessarily need one to go win a Super Bowl. I also feel like we're going to get far more interior pass rushing pressure. I think Daron Payne is going to, contract year, and we're hearing some rumblings. Some sources saying that he's probably going to be better without Jonathan Allen around because, their personalities clash, all kinds of off the field weird stuff that shouldn't really affect your play on the field, but apparently it did. Then again, he's also technically in a contract year. He got to go out there and earn a new contract this year. Because he can get Jonathan Allen. He has no guarantee money. We can cut him for nothing, trade him for nothing, just like we did Jonathan Allen this past offseason. Daron Payne, you're up next. Wouldn't be surprised if he balls out because of that. And like I mentioned earlier, Johnny Newton, this is going to be his first fully healthy offseason of actually practicing. Training camp, mandatory mini camp. He missed all of that stuff last year. And then you brought in Javon Killard, and like I said already, did a whole film session for y'all to see. I'm not making a dime off of that video. I did it purely just for the love of the sport, just for the culture, for y'all to see. I'm showing y'all the clips and everything. So if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. Javon Killard is going to be a huge boost to our interior pass rush. And so our defensive line is just going to be better, even just because our interior pass rush is going to be way better than it was last year. So I'm not worried, man. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you love everything discussed in the video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure y'all still follow that like button on the way out. Really appreciate y'all. Of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in the video. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my points. Let me know how you feel about everything, man. If you disagree, let me know why and how and all of that type of stuff. Let me know what I may have missed. Like, what are some stock ups that I should have included? What are some stock downs that I should have included? Let Let me know how y'all feel about everything. Really appreciate y'all. Again, leave a like on the way out. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.